Jackson Mayers had always considered himself an ordinary man. He lived on the outskirts of the Terran colony of Arcturus 9, a mining settlement that clung to the jagged cliffs of a gas giant's moon. The colony was small, its people self-reliant, and life was harsh. Yet Jackson's hands, calloused from years of labor, had never trembled in the face of danger. That ordinary courage, he would soon learn, was worth more than any interstellar treaty or fleet of warships. The day began like any other. The twin suns of Arcturus 9 blazed across the sky, casting long shadows over the jagged terrain. Jackson was hauling ore from the northern pit when a distant scream split the air. At first he thought it was a miner caught in a collapse, common enough, but then he saw the flames licking across a shattered section of the outpost. Racing toward the inferno, Jackson barely registered the silhouette in the fire. A small humanoid figure, but not human. Her skin shimmered with a faint iridescence, her limbs delicate yet strong, and her eyes, large, multifaceted, and glowing, were wide with terror. Without a second thought, Jackson plunged into the flames. Heat scorched his face and smoke clawed at his lungs, but he reached her in time, lifting her out of the inferno as the structure groaned and threatened to collapse. She coughed, sputtered, and then looked up at him with a mixture of fear and awe. She was a young member of the Elythrians, a race known across the galaxy for their advanced technology and isolationist tendencies. The Elythrians had never been close to humans. Their diplomats had shunned our colonies, wary of our impulsive nature. Yet here, lying in Jackson's arms, was an Elythrian girl, no older than 16, saved by a man who had never seen the stars beyond his mining colony. Word spread faster than fire across the moon's dry plains. By nightfall, Elythrian scouts had arrived, their sleek ships hovering silently above the colony. Jackson expected confrontation, perhaps even accusations. But instead, the Elythrians acted with humility. Their leader, a tall, silver-clad elder named Vera, descending onto the ground. Jackson set the girl down gently, brushing soot from her luminous skin. "She'll be safe here," he said, his voice steady despite the smoke and adrenaline. Vera studied him, her expression unreadable. Then, slowly, she bowed, a gesture of profound respect in Elythrian culture. "Jackson Mayers," she said, her voice melodic and resonant. "Your courage has surpassed what any of our records have ever documented. You have preserved a life, and in doing so, you have preserved the honor of your people. We owe you more than gratitude. We owe you fealty." Jackson blinked. "Fealty? I'm just a miner. I don't—" Vera raised a hand, and the air around them shimmered with faint energy. "You have shown what many of our diplomats could not comprehend: selfless courage, compassion without calculation, a willingness to risk your life for another. That is why the Empire kneels before you, Jackson Mayers. Not because you command armies, but because you embody what our leaders call the essence of sentience." By dawn, Elythrian emissaries had gathered across the colony. Their ships, silent and imposing, surrounded Arcturus 9 like a crown of light. They spoke not of conquest, not of treaties, but of allegiance and alliance. Jackson, still covered in soot and ash, stood at the center, overwhelmed by the sheer weight of recognition from a civilization that had once viewed humans as reckless primitives. The girl, who introduced herself as Liara, recovered quickly. Her luminous eyes tracked Jackson with an intensity that made him uneasy and proud all at once. "I owe you my life," she whispered. "The Empire. They will never forget this." Jackson shrugged, unaccustomed to praise. "I just did what anyone should do. If it had been your species saving mine, I'd want someone to do the same for you." Liara's smile was faint but genuine, a reflection of trust forming across species lines. "You are more than human," she said. "In saving me, you have shown the potential of your kind." "The Empire! They see it now." Weeks passed, and Jackson found himself navigating a world he had never imagined. Elythrian scholars and engineers arrived at Arcturus 9, sharing knowledge that challenged human understanding of physics, medicine, and technology. They marveled at the resilience of human communities, our stubbornness, ingenuity, and above all, our courage. For the first time, humanity was not being measured by what we could conquer or destroy, but by what we could preserve and protect. Jackson became a symbol, though he never sought the spotlight. In every Elythrian council and human forum that followed, his actions were recounted, not for glory, but as a demonstration of humanity's unique strength. Other humans, previously dismissed as impulsive or violent, began to be seen differently. The Elythrians, with their vast archives and meticulous logic, recognized a pattern. Humans, in their imperfection, possessed an unpredictability and moral courage that no calculation could replicate. The day the Elythrian Empire formally knelt before Jackson and the people of Arcturus 9 was a day that would be recorded in history books across both species. Elythrian banners, silver and iridescent, were lowered in deference, and Jackson, standing barefoot on the scorched ground of his mining colony, realized the enormity of what had happened. It was not conquest or diplomacy that had won respect, but simple humanity, courage, compassion, and the willingness to act without expectation of reward. Liara, now fully recovered and radiant with health, stayed by his side as they addressed the combined colonies and Elythrian envoys. "He is a reminder," she said, her voice carrying across the crowd, "that even in a galaxy of wonders and terrors, the measure of a species is not in its technology or its weapons, but in its capacity for courage and empathy. Jackson Mayers represents that ideal, and for that, we kneel." Jackson shook his head, smiling softly. "I'm just a man," he said, "but if being a man means helping others, then maybe that's enough to change the universe." And in that moment, as Elythrian ships shimmered overhead and humans from scattered colonies watched in awe, Jackson Mayers became the living testament to the idea that the smallest acts of bravery, the simplest gestures of compassion, could ripple across worlds, and even bend the knee of an entire empire. The galaxy had learned a new lesson that day. Heroism was not born of superiority, but of courage, empathy, and the quiet refusal to look away when another being was in need. And humanity, through one ordinary man's extraordinary act, had earned its place among the stars.